So this was no financial benefit at all or any kind of transaction before. I just felt that the opportunity that working, Mr. McDonald working with Butler and understanding the importance of the harassment that was happening within the public safety portfolio, that I felt like there had to be some recognition, whether it's a pat on the back or job well done for identifying the issues with the public safety and being the pathfinder organization to move forward.
So the benefit for him from this relationship was that praise sent his way would help him advance in the organization. And the benefit for you was that you would be able to charge these commissions and continue to get work. Is that a fair characterization of sort of this reciprocity that you had going on?
No, not at all.
Why not?
Well, because there was the intentions was I was not going to rub his back, he rubs my back. This is not, I'm going to make you have advancements through your career so you can keep funneling contracts. You have to bear in mind that the first contract, after knowing Mr. McDonald since 2010, the first contract I was awarded while he was in the department was 10 years later. Like, that doesn't sound like it's a relationship that's been going back and forth many times.
But the quote is literally, I just want to make sure he gets taken care of, right?
That could be recognition for a job well done. That doesn't guarantee a promotion.
Okay, it reads to me like something more than recognition, being taken care of.
So a quick question, Mr. Backrack, please.
Okay, I'll cede my time, Mr. Chair, and dive into the next question next round. Thank you.
Thanks. Mrs. Block, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Firth, I'm going to circle back to my line of questioning regarding GC Strategies' involvement in developing criterion on the fourth contract that you would have been awarded through the CBSA. Both the Auditor General and the Procurement Ombuds identified the overly restrictive criterion on that fourth contract, which obviously raised concerns for both of them. Of deeper concern to the Auditor General is that she went further and identified that GC Strategies were at the table. And so, look, you would have been meeting with public office holders in order to set this criteria. They are accountable to Parliament. And so I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked earlier. I'm trusting that you've had an opportunity to speak with your lawyer. Who did you communicate with from the Government of Canada? And I need the names. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. So let me address the about the requirements being overly restrictive. I think I've heard in testimony and read in reports that the e-portal did a CPSS search, and there were actually 40 qualified vendors that could bid on this RFP. And actually, I think 10 even showed interest. So it seems a little subjective after the fact to call it restrictive when there were already 40 qualified vendors who could actually respond to that. And secondly, I've had a chance to speak with my lawyer, and I'm sticking to what my line of is with regards to this is under investigation by the RCMP, and therefore I cannot interfere with that.
Mr. Chair, I'm wondering if you could provide us with any clarity on that.
Thanks, Mrs. Block. Mr. Firth, I understand what you're saying, but it's a very direct and simple question, and we do have rules, and I'm going to refer back to it. Witnesses must answer all questions which the committee puts to them. You may object to a question asked by an individual committee member. However, the committee agrees that the question to be put to the witness is obliged to reply. Actions a witness refuses questions may be reported to the House, and I think I can speak for everyone. We don't want to get to that point, but I think it's a fair question, and I don't think it's one directly related to any potential investigation. If I read it right, it's the commentary that GC helped write the requirements that you in turn won the contract for. And I think that's what we're looking for. It is, if I correct Mrs. Block, is, you know, who did you discuss this with the department with?
Yeah, so again, I've the first three contracts, the names have already been provided back in October of 2022, and I promised the committee member that I'll get the fourth person to them after this meeting.
Okay.
So I want, just for greater clarity, I'm looking for the individuals or individual that you would have met with in developing the criteria, not who signed off on the contract in this particular case. I do want that name, but now I'm asking, who did you sit at the table with to develop the criteria for this contract?
And again, apologies, but after speaking with my lawyer, my stance still stands the same with the RCMP investigation pending. I don't interfere with that.
Well, Mr. Chair, I'm not sure where we go with that, but I'm sure we'll discuss that in due time. I'm going to then turn some of my questions to a slide deck for a possible app in March 2020 that you were asked to create. It's my understanding that this deck was presented to Mindone, who is a key government official that was involved in ArriveCAN, and that particular app had a Distill mobile logo. If that is correct, who asked you to provide the deck?
I'm sorry. Can you please repeat the question?
Sure. You were asked to put together a slide deck for a possible app in March of 2020. Who asked you to provide that deck?
I'm more than happy to get that to you in writing. I was not aware of this question coming up. So March 2020 at Distill deck. Yep, I can get that to you.
Okay. So you were contacted from the government and you were told you are receiving a contract for ArriveCAN. Is there anyone at the CBSA that would have to declare a conflict of interest on contracts that you are bidding on?
No, there's not.
Okay, so you are not related to anyone at the CBSA?
Correct, I'm not.
Okay. Are you related to anyone working for a government department or any public office holder?
All of my family is in the UK.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's turn now to Von Brennan. He is an Ottawa-based consultant, and it is my understanding that you know him professionally. Is that correct?
Correct.
Do you know him in any other capacity?
No, I do not.
Okay, Mr. Brennan's wife worked at Procurement Canada. That's the department responsible for government contracts. Were you aware of this?
Not until now.
Okay, just, I guess, another convenient coincidence. Who were your contacts with the government at the following departments and agencies? We have Canada Border Services Agency. It's my understanding there are 134 contracts there. Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada, 24 contracts, and Employment and Social Development Canada. So who are your contacts with all of these departments?
I'd like to provide all of those details after this meeting, please. I would not like to speak about it publicly, just how this committee is going. So if you wouldn't mind, I would provide that information to you after this meeting.
We're out of time anyways. Perhaps we can get back to that in the next round, or it can be provided in writing. We have Mr. Kuzmierczuk from sunny tropical Windsor. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Firth, for your testimony here today. I wanted to ask you, you had stated that that you were part of about 100+ contracts throughout your career with the federal government. Have any of those failed to deliver?
We've never had a contract cancel.
Okay. Have you ever failed to deliver what was asked of you in any contract by whether it's the contracting agency like CBSA or Procurement Services Canada?
No, I have not.
Okay. Going back to picking up a question that my colleague had just asked regarding the mandatory criteria, the Auditor General report and the Procurement Ombudsman basically concluded that this is a documentation issue. This is that we're looking at here. Those are the huge gaps that we saw. That there wasn't any paper trails. Auditor General called it some of the worst financial tracking that we've seen, and that's the conclusion of both of those independent agencies. But there's one issue that I want to sort of zero in on because it is more serious than that, and that is the question about what was your role in drafting the mandatory criteria? Because the argument from the Auditor General is that this had the potential to artificially reduce competition on the bidding process. And as a result, Canadians would not have received the best value. I know that there are some things you mentioned you aren't able to respond to right now in terms of who you were involved with directly in terms of designing the criteria, the mandatory criteria that favored GC strategies. That was the words of the Ombudsman. But can you tell us how often in this line of work is a company like yours involved in designing the mandatory bid criteria?
Again, there's certain things I can disclose and I can't comment for all the other firms, 635 and what they do.
Just your firm, Mr. Firth.
Sorry, you have to repeat the question there. Right now, I'm confused with what you're asking me. I'm sorry.
So basically, the argument was that, or what the Auditor General and the Ombudsman had stated, is that you were participating in the design of the mandatory bid criteria. And the argument is that this would have favored GC strategies. And I wanted to ask, how often are you a participant? Do you participate in the design of mandatory bid criteria?
We never do.
Because the Auditor General had stated and the Procurement Ombudsman that you were a participant in designing the bid criteria that may have favored GC strategies. So can you address that particular issue?
What I can say and what I'm prepared to say is that the e-portal system from PSPC identified through those mandatory criteria that there were still 40 qualified vendors that could go after this. That doesn't sound like it's overly restrictive if there's 40 vendors that can go after this.
But you can understand, Mr. Firth, we're concerned that a vendor is actually working with whether it's CBSA or whether it's Procurement Services Canada to design the bid itself. That seems like that's sort of inside baseball. And so I want you to address that charge, because that seems very serious to me, because it has the potential to reduce competition.
Well, what I can say is that there was no bid rigging involved at all in the fourth COVID contract.
Okay, one other question I wanted to ask you to clarify is my colleagues across the table often refer to GC strategies as two guys in a basement that do no work and that received $11 million in contracts. Can you clarify what is the role of a staffing agency and respond to that charge that it's two guys in a basement that do no work?
Thank you. Well, first of all, it's two guys in a staffing agency, but also two business owners. So there's also the amount of work is actually doubled compared to just being an employee. You know, we're doing security clearances, we're recruiting, we're meeting with partners, we're networking with independent subcontractors, understanding what they do. We're preparing RFPs, we're writing RFPs, we're working with all these people to contribute and do bid responses. We do invoicing. We do, that's just a few things. It's a full-time job. I mean, we're here to provide resources to the federal government, again, until the procurement's changed and they can go direct. That's our role.
And you assemble the people that do the work. Is that correct? That is your job? You assemble the people that do the work.
Correct. That can be staff augmentation, where it's one person for a project, or it can be a requirement for a team of resources.
Okay, sort of like, we see, for example...
We're past our time, Mr. Kuzmirchuk.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Barrett. Mr. Barrett, go ahead, please.
That we have a round of questions with you. It seems like there's a lot of cleanup afterwards. I have to go back to the question Ms. Block asked you. That was, who were your contacts with the government at the following departments and agencies? CBSA, Innovation, Science, Economic Development Canada, Employment and Social Development Canada. Are you telling us you don't know the answers to that question, or is your answer that you're refusing to provide us with the information that you have?